Tonight, the major change to COVID vaccine guidelines. Health Secretary RFK Jr. bypasses the CDC, changing the guidance on COVID vaccines, no longer recommending them for pregnant women and healthy children. Kennedy's decision blindsiding medical experts and comes after just last month he told Congress, "I don't think people should be taking advice, medical advice from me." New drama in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, his personal assistant testifying that Combs carried a gun on multiple occasions, saying she feared she would be hurt. We break down everything that happened in court today. The wild story we're learning about tonight, a second suspect now under arrest, accused of kidnapping and torturing a cryptocurrency investor in a luxury Manhattan townhouse. New details of what they're accused of doing to the victim and how he managed to get away. Tonight, the concern after the man known as the Devil of the Ozarks, convicted of murder and rape, managed to escape from a high-security prison wearing a makeshift officer's uniform. The concerning development in the AI world, the robot that resorted to blackmail if told it would be shut down, and what the company in charge is saying about it tonight. And this Brain Cancer Awareness Month, we meet a true fighter on a journey no one her age should ever have to embark on.
I heard Mary Poppins ask if you have magic in your heart. Do you have magic in your heart?
Well, I feel like everybody has. You just have to find it.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with Health Secretary RFK Jr. reversing course, bypassing the CDC, announcing a major change on COVID vaccines. Kennedy is no longer recommending them for pregnant women or healthy children. Kennedy's decision has blindsided medical experts. The leading OBGYN association is pushing back, saying it's very clear that COVID-19 infection during pregnancy can be catastrophic. It was just 4 months ago during his confirmation hearing when Kennedy told senators, "I support vaccines, I support the childhood schedule," affirming he would do nothing that, quote, makes it difficult or discourages people from taking vaccines. By pronouncing the change to the CDC's immunization schedule and skirting the independent review process by experts, some are now wondering if insurance will still cover the shots. A number of major headlines on this busy Tuesday night, but we begin with our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott.
Tonight, in a significant change to CDC guidelines, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announcing the department will no longer recommend routine COVID shots for healthy children and pregnant women.
I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule.
Kennedy, a noted vaccine skeptic, has questioned whether the COVID-19 vaccine was successful in saving millions of lives. Today, he was joined by other top health officials.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
But the move was quickly questioned by public health officials, accusing the Trump administration of bypassing the traditional independent review process, including recommendations from medical experts. "We were kind of blindsided by this announcement. We were not consulted about this," Dr. Sean O'Leary with the American Academy of Pediatrics said, and the leading OBGYN association with this dire warning. It's very clear that COVID-19 infection during pregnancy can be catastrophic. Tonight, the CDC's website still listing the COVID vaccine as recommended for everyone 6 months and older, including pregnant women. Doctors saying the new recommendations are unclear and remove a healthcare choice for families. This comes after the deadly measles outbreak across the country, most of the cases involving children not vaccinated. Today, Nebraska, now the 32nd state to report a measles case, a rare breakthrough case in a child who was vaccinated. So far, more than 1,000 people have been infected with the virus since the start of this year. 3 unvaccinated people, including 2 children, have died.
And Rachel Scott joins us now from the White House. Rachel, I know you're also covering another developing headline from the administration. President Trump just pardoned 2 reality stars. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, Lindsay, this news just coming in. The president announcing that he is granting full pardons to Julie and Todd Chrisley, 2 reality TV stars from the show Chrisley Knows Best. Both were convicted of tax evasion and also of defrauding banks out of more than $30 million using false information as they continue to portray a luxurious life on television. The president saying that those pardons could come as soon as tomorrow, Lindsay.
All right, Rachel Scott for us. Thanks so much, Rachel. Dramatic testimony at the trial of Sean Diddy Combs here in New York City. His former assistant Capricorn Clark took the stand today, testifying that a gun-toting Combs forced her into a car to confront Kid Cudi. Clark also says that she saw Combs repeatedly abuse his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. ABC News contributor Bernardo Villalona is here to break down today's testimony for us. But first, ABC's chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky leads us off from the courthouse.
A woman who worked for Sean Combs for years today testified he once kidnapped her at gunpoint on his way to attempt to kill a romantic rival. The hip-hop mogul had just found out his on-and-off girlfriend Cassie Ventura began dating rapper Kid Cudi in late 2011 when his former assistant Capricorn Clark testified she woke to banging at her door and saw a very upset Puff with a gun in his hand. "Get dressed, we're going to kill Kid Cudi," Clark recalled Combs telling her, but the rapper wasn't home at the time. Prosecutors are trying to prove Combs used kidnapping as part of a criminal enterprise, an allegation he has denied. Clark telling the jury Combs held her until Ventura agreed to see him. "He told me to tell Cassie that he has me and he's not going to let me go." Another time, Clark testified one of Combs' bodyguards, known as Uncle Paulie, brought her to a dilapidated space at Bad Boy Entertainment where a very wide, very heavy chain-smoking man subjected her to 5 days of lie detector tests after Combs suspected her of stealing jewelry he wore at one of his famous white parties in the Hamptons. If she flunked the test, she remembered the man telling her, "They're going to throw you in the East River."
Quite a threat there. Aaron Katursky joins us now. Aaron, we know another former employee is expected to take the stand tomorrow. What do we expect the prosecution to focus on?
She's expected to testify under a pseudonym, Mia, and she was a former employee of Sean Combs, who federal prosecutors allege was put under force, under threat, to perform sex acts with Sean Combs. And it's another part of the alleged racketeering conspiracy. The jury heard about kidnapping today, a lot about kidnapping from Capricorn Clark. From this woman who's going to be identified as Mia, they're going to hear about forced labor as federal prosecutors try to prove that Sean Combs was guilty of running a criminal enterprise behind the scenes of that famous celebrity facade. Lindsay?
Aaron Katursky back on the case for us again. Thanks, Aaron. Trial attorney and ABC News contributor Bernardo Villalona joins us now in studio. Bernardo, you've become a fixture in the Diddy courtroom at this point. Your main takeaway from Capricorn Clark's testimony today?
Well, Capricorn Clark gave riveting testimony today, but I think the main purpose and goal of her testimony today was to go to that racketeering conspiracy. We've asked, and many people have asked, well, who did Sean Combs conspire with? He's the only one that's at the table. And of course, the prosecution has him as the leader of this conspiracy. But today, Capricorn Clark was able to establish and give evidence as to the co-conspirators that are not charged in this case, but specifically the security guards that worked with Sean Combs to get to that kidnapping the first time, having to deal with the lie detector test, but also to go to Kid Cudi's home and to cause harm upon him if he were to have been in his house.
Now, the defense also was quick to point out some text messages that she allegedly had sent to Diddy, basically saying that she had a crush on him, was thinking about working with him again. What's the significance of that?
So in terms of how did the defense attack this riveting, strong testimony given by Capricorn Clark? Because, of course, if you were to believe her, I think you make out the racketeering conspiracy. So the defense tried to discredit her in terms of what is her motive to testify, and in terms of her not mentioning before that she had some kind of crush on Sean Combs, and for the first time you're hearing about it during the cross-examination. But again, we're talking about many years ago. We're talking about she met Sean Combs back in 2002, started working for him in 2004 until 2012, and then 2016 to 2018. So is it something that's material? I don't think so. But then again, you just never know what these jurors are thinking of. They were taking notes during her direct examination as well as her cross-examination.
Now, at one point also, she said that Cassie was talented, but she was no Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey. What was the significance of that?
So this was doing cross-examination, and what the defense, Mark Agnifilo, I think where he was trying to go with this is that in terms of Sean Combs didn't control Cassie's professional career. He didn't have her professional career in his hands. It was more of that he provided all the services and the tools for Cassie to succeed, but because she wasn't this big superstar, that's why she didn't succeed. Not that Sean Combs was holding her career under his control, because remember, that goes towards the coercion and control part of Cassie.
Now that we're entering the third week of this trial, do you think that the prosecution has been able to draw a direct line to the racketeering charge?
I think so, based on Capricorn Clark's testimony today, but that is if the jury finds her credible, believable, the testimony that she gave today.
What do you think the potential damage is on cross for the prosecution of her?
Well, I think in terms of the damages on Cross's prior inconsistent statements, in terms of that, Capricorn Clark testified to a lot of damaging evidence, but a lot of that information, it wasn't consistent with what the agents took down as what her interviews were all about, which is quite common when you're dealing with these interviews, having to deal with agents or law enforcement. They don't do a word for word of what the witness is saying. So you find that throughout witnesses' testimony that is inconsistent with what the agents wrote.
Bernarda, thank you so much, as always. And make sure to catch our ABC News Live daily show on this trial, Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy, airing nightly at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. There's a new arrest in that disturbing case of a cryptocurrency investor allegedly held captive and brutally tortured for weeks at a luxury Manhattan townhouse. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has the chilling new details.
How was the Hamptons?
Tonight, a second suspect surrendering to police, led out in handcuffs in connection with that shocking and disturbing case of a cryptocurrency investor allegedly held captive and brutally tortured for weeks inside this luxury Manhattan townhouse.
Why did you do it? Why did you do it? Who helped you?
32-year-old crypto investor William Duplessis turning himself in early this morning. 37-year-old John Waltz, another crypto investor, was arrested Friday, brought out of that townhouse by police barefoot and in a bathrobe. Waltz charged with kidnapping, assault, and criminal possession of a firearm. The alleged victim, a 28-year-old Italian national, telling authorities his captors took his passport, tied him up, and demanded his Bitcoin password. When he refused, he says the suspects shocked him with electric wires, beat him with a firearm, and dangled him over a ledge, threatening to kill him if he didn't share the password. After nearly 3 weeks, the victim says he agreed to give up his password, but was able to make a daring escape when the suspects went to retrieve his laptop. The victim, barefoot and bleeding, was able to flag down an officer nearby.
Thanks to Stephanie Ramos. An urgent search is underway in Kansas for a former police chief known as the Devil of the Ozarks. The man, convicted of murder and rape, managed to escape a high-security prison in rural Arkansas wearing a makeshift officer's uniform. Officials say his law enforcement background and knowledge may be helping him elude capture. Here's ABC's Faith Abube.
Tonight, Arkansas residents on high alert as the urgent search for a former police chief turned escaped convict stretches into its third day. Grant Hardin breaking out of an Arkansas prison this weekend. The 56-year-old was serving decades in prison for rape and murder. The Stone County Sheriff's Office releasing this photo they say shows Hardin disguised in a makeshift officer's uniform as he took off from the prison through a controlled gate.
It does look like it was handmade and manufactured in a lot of ways, and so we're trying to ascertain exactly what compiled that makeshift uniform and where he was able to get those materials.
Tonight, authorities telling ABC News they're scouring the densely wooded area nearby, warning Hardin, who has a law enforcement background, could be armed and dangerous. The sheriff closing roads, setting up checkpoints, and telling the community to, quote, stay vigilant, lock your house and vehicle doors, and report any suspicious activity immediately. Hardin, known locally as the Devil of the Ozarks, has been the subject of criminal docuseries. Police detectives who previously worked alongside him, shocked and devastated.
There's evil in this world that will take advantage of an opportunity if they get it. And then here he was, 20 years later, sitting 5 feet away from me, and I had no idea.
The urgent manhunt for the former police chief comes at the same time as authorities are still looking for 2 of the 10 inmates who escaped in a separate brazen jailbreak in New Orleans.
Everybody move to the right side of the car!
Authorities releasing this new body camera video of 2 of their most recent arrests, now captured and back behind bars. Back in Arkansas, the manhunt intensifying tonight as residents remain on edge.
Our thanks to Faith Abube. The driver accused of ramming into fans at a soccer victory parade in Liverpool, England, is now facing attempted murder charges. At least 65 people were hurt, including children, in the incident on a narrow, crowded street. Video shows the driver speed up and plow into pedestrians. How police say that driver made it into the center of the crowd. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Liverpool tonight.
Tonight, a man's facing attempted murder charges, accused of driving a van into a massive crowd of soccer fans during a parade in Liverpool, England. Over 1 million turned out, celebrating their team's league victory, but then tragedy. These videos, now police evidence, showing a van slamming into people.
Oh my God!
Swerving, hitting others. An angry crowd surging around the vehicle, smashing windows.
We could hear the thuds as the car hit and people screaming and shouting, and you could just hear it all.
At least 65 people injured, including 4 children, some trapped under the van. Tonight, police say the 53-year-old suspected driver followed an ambulance into a secured area closed to traffic as medics responded to an emergency. But they insist this wasn't terrorism.
My thoughts are with all those injured in this awful incident.
Ian joins us now from Liverpool. And Ian, have we learned anything about a potential motive?
Yeah, no, at the moment, the police still haven't said what could have motivated him, but perhaps a clue, I think, in some of the potential charges, one of which is driving while under the influence of drugs. And perhaps that lowered the threshold, perhaps that's why it led to the incident, but nothing like, for example, a political motive or anything like that, or a religious motive. They clearly ruled out that terrorism could have been the cause of what happened here at Water Street. The police have just moved the tape now. The clean-up operation is underway, but this really is an event that has shaken this city. It's a tightly knit city. It lives by its history. It lives by its football clubs. And what was supposed to be a joyous day ended in tragedy, but still many questions remaining about what led to those tragic events here on Water Street. Lindsay?
Ian Pannell for us in Liverpool. Ian, thank you. More than 24 hours later, there are still questions about just how this happened and how something like this could be prevented. To talk more about this, joining us now is the former chief of detectives for the New York Police Department and ABC News contributor Robert Boyce. Thank you so much for coming on, as always. So we're talking about nearly 500,000 people who were lining the parade route. Give us a sense of how you prepare to keep that number of people safe.
So Lindsay, you have a grid, and every police department knows this. These vehicle-borne attacks are very, very dangerous. And you have a grid, and you have to seal it off. And we saw lapses in that in New Orleans. Terrible incident. But nowadays, this is what they did, starting in 2016 in Nice, France, that terrible day with 86 people murdered. Now it's part of your plan. And so even if it's a joyous event, we've seen things happen, bad things happen at Champions events. We had our own Kansas City Chiefs shooting one year. So you have to grid that out. You have to make that important, lock that down so no vehicle could come in and do this. Yet it still happens. I'm surprised by it.
We see a number of barricades and barriers. Do you think that those are enough, substantial, to protect pedestrians?
Well, couple that with intel resources and checkpoints and bag searches. So all these things go into the mix. In New York, we'd have a 3-layer look. We have high altitude threat, we have a street threat, and we have a subterranean threat, meaning subways. So every little strategy has to go into those each. In New York, you'll see large construction trucks blocking off whole areas. And they work. They do, against that vehicle threat. And that's what's important. To understand your grid and your perimeters are important to stop that by putting those in place. They do work. There's always failure. There's no question about that. But putting that in place gives you a better opportunity to stop it before it happens.
You mentioned the word failure. Do you think what happened in Liverpool was a security failure?
I don't know yet. To be honest with you, we haven't heard exactly what happened. Was that car parked there and then he drove it within the grid? We don't know. They're saying this individual is on drugs. He's being charged with that. So we know what he's being charged with. We don't know his name. But we know, exactly what he's done.
Obviously, there are a number. New York does it well with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, for example. There are a number of events that people might say, I'm just not going to go anymore. Do you think that that's warranted for people to just not even attend these kinds of events?
No, I don't think it's warranted. We want people. It's parade season right now in New York. We have the Puerto Rican Day Parade coming up in a couple weeks. So you want people to go. It's a big parade. Everybody has a good time. It's good for the city as well. So I think it's safe, to be honest with you. I've worked the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I've worked just about everyone, Thanksgiving. And I see the preparedness going. I see the meetings beforehand. The joint meetings with all different things, sanitation, you name it. Fire department comes in, we all talk and grid this out. That needs to happen.
In general, if there are red flags, what would you say are potential signs that something may be about to go awry?
Well, you see the FBI put out a warning today in the summer season. It's something to worry about. The threats are out there. You have to stay on top of it. We have a great intelligence unit in the NYPD and a great partnership with the FBI. So those things are all going to the grid. That's what keeps people safe. Hard work and constantly worrying about these things. Come out, enjoy the parades. It's a great time of year. And understand that a lot of people, without you seeing them, are working hard.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much, Robert Boyce. Always appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
In Gaza, sheer desperation and chaos as the first aid reached the Strip after 3 months of total blockade. Children and entire families raced to get any food they could. Many today did not get any. Here's our chief international correspondent, James Longman.
Desperate scenes in Gaza tonight. Starving men, women and children scrambling for food at an aid distribution centre. A fight for survival at their first chance for basic necessities since Israel's total blockade started 3 months ago. The aid station overrun, thousands rushing in every direction. Warning shots fired to control the crowd. This child scraping flour off the ground. Mazen Yunus says he walked for miles and came home with only a can of peas to feed his family of 10. There was shooting and all hell broke loose. It's food dipped in blood. This is not working, he says. The centre is being run by the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, an operation backed by the US and Israel, which employs private security companies with support from Israeli troops. The UN accuses Israel of weaponizing aid as a means of displacement. They call for large-scale aid to be delivered directly to people, rather than forcing them to move in order to survive.
Tonight, the State Department has put a temporary hold on new international student visa interviews as it ramps up social media screenings. Students who want to study in the U.S. typically must schedule interviews at an American embassy or consulate. All this comes on the heels of the Trump administration moving to try to bar international students from Harvard. A court blocked that last week. Joining us now for more is the director of the Association of International Educators, Fanta Off. Your organization advocates for international students. First, just like to thank you so much for coming on the show. Let's get your reaction to news about this latest announcement about social media vetting for students.
Well, thank you for having me, Lindsay. What I would say is that it is a sad day, but more than that, it is not surprising, however disappointing. The news of today is quite disappointing for the institutions and for the students and their families who are getting ready to come to the United States for this coming fall. So not surprising, but nonetheless disappointing.
I'd imagine that now's the time that international students are truly getting ready for the fall. What happens to all the students who've been accepted into schools and are now worried about what comes next?
So for those students who have been accepted and are waiting for their visa interviews with a pause, it means potentially more delays, perhaps not being able to make it on time once the pause is lifted. But also more importantly, Lindsay, most likely than not, those students will be discouraged and will look to other destinations as study destinations as opposed to the United States, given the number of actions that the administration has taken over the last month, a couple of months. I think those are all actions that will have consequences in terms of students being discouraged to come to the United States.
I understand your organization says that foreign students contributed $43 billion to the U.S. economy during the 2023-2024 school year. What will happen if ultimately there's a massive drop in foreign student enrollment as a result of all of this?
Absolutely. As we have said before through our analysis, not only $43 billion, but also have created as a result of that over 330,000 jobs all across this country. So if we have a massive drop, this will have a serious economic impact, and not just for the institutions, but really for the local economy. And in addition to the economic impact, It will also have impact in terms of innovation, because we know that international students are a major engine of innovation in this country and contribute to startups once they've graduated for those who choose to stay here. So the consequences are going to be large in terms of economic, in terms of innovation, and in terms of strengthening this country.
Is there any legal action at all that you're considering over this latest move by the Trump administration?
No, we are continuing to monitor this very closely. We know that institutions and others are very concerned about this, and that the sector as a whole is quite concerned about this, but we're very closely monitoring, and we're also asking Congress to really step in. We want Congress to ask questions. We want Congress to really find out how long this pause is going to take. And at the end of the day, we really have to think about the strength of this country. And again, we do believe that international students are very much part of that. The idea that international students are a threat or national security threat to this country is quite troubling, frankly.
Fanta Off, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. has announced it will reopen this Thursday after the tragic killing of 2 Israeli embassy staffers who were shot outside the building last week. The museum plans to hold a program honoring the 2 victims, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky, Thursday morning before reopening. The couple had plans to become engaged this week. 2 pigeons delayed a Delta flight from Minneapolis-St. Paul to Madison, Wisconsin this week, and not once, but twice. The first bird began flying around the cabin shortly after boarding, prompting the aircraft to return to the gate. The ground crew removed it, but as the plane taxied out for a takeoff, a second pigeon took flight, forcing the flight back once again. Air traffic control was in disbelief.
There's a pigeon on the airplane and it won't go away. That's a first for me. Wow.
Just before the plane attempted to depart again, flight attendants asked passengers to check for birds under seats and in their luggage. After 2 recent attempts ended in explosions tonight, Elon Musk's SpaceX Starship has launched its 9th test flight. Musk has made no secret of his desire for Starship to one day send humans to Mars, but the program has yet to prove it can continue to fly and return safely. Musk's last 2 test flights exploded midair early in Flight 1 by way of self-destruction. Coming up, the investigation after a boat suddenly exploded in Florida, leaving multiple people critically injured. And during this Brain Cancer Awareness Month, we bring you the story of 9-year-old Casey Zachman, a true fighter and a remarkable little girl, helping researchers to one day finally find a cure.
So you give yourself a pep talk, and what do you say?
Honestly, I only know like when it's happening.
Welcome back, everyone. May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month, and with grace and humor, 9-year-old Casey Zachman is fighting this horrible disease. And while the surgeries, radiation treatments, and experimental therapies don't always result in making her better, they do move science forward, helping researchers who one day hope to find a cure. Those efforts, however, have been made more difficult since DOJ's recent drive to cut funds for cancer research. But for Casey and her family in Chevy Chase, Maryland, each day is a blessing. Our Kira Phillips spent time with them and shares her story.
Just a spoonful of sugar.
A spoonful of sugar. A spoonful of light. Mary Poppins isn't just a character for 9-year-old Casey Zachman. She's a way of life.
Let's see how tall you are.
A life that has changed a lot over the years.
Practically perfect in every way.
Diagnosed with brain cancer at the age of 5, finding joy in the magic of Mary Poppins doesn't let anything cloud her imagination. And her spirit, nothing but extraordinary.
There you go, down and up.
For Casey, it's not the medicine.
Go, Case, you got it!
It's the magic that keeps her going. And today, we thought she needed a little extra.
You ready for your surprise?
Okay.
You ready?
Think so?
You think so?
Hello, Casey. The winds told me you were in need of a little visit and that you have a lot of magic in your heart. Be sure to always carry that magic with you, for it can make anything possible, even the impossible. Well, be true to yourself Continue being brave, marvelous, and brilliant, and I hope the winds will carry me your way again very soon.
I heard Mary Poppins ask if you have magic in your heart. Do you have magic in your heart?
Well, I feel like everybody has. You just have to find it.
In this moment, Casey isn't a little girl with cancer. She is practically perfect in every way.
She is constantly thinking about other people's feelings. She cares so much about everybody else. You know, when we walk into the hospital, she's like a celebrity. Everybody knows her. Everybody's so happy to see her. When she's not doing well, it's hard on them. And you know, they see this every day.
That's why Casey's spirit is the prescription everyone around her needs right now.
How do you balance living every day with joy, knowing what's going to happen?
I think when you hear parents talk about how they felt when they first held their baby after they were born, or when they saw their daughter walk down the aisle in a wedding dress, every day Casey wakes up, that's how I feel. And every time I kiss her before she goes to bed, I feel the same way. And when you start to live every day that way, every day is incredible. Every single day.
Even if that means 6 brain surgeries, chemo, dozens of sessions of radiation, several injections directly into her brain, and 23 different medications.
How do you stay so brave?
Honestly, like when I'm doing my pep talk to myself.
So you give yourself a pep talk, and what do you say?
Honestly, I only know like when it's happening.
And it's about to happen right now.
Okay.
Today, we're with Casey for her 52nd radiation treatment. And here comes that pep talk.
Let's do this.
Those first moments, a little scary.
All right, we'll go nice and slow.
Good job, Casey. You got this.
But her playlist begins. Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline. Caroline is one of Casey's favorite nurses.
When you see your daughter listening to the music, smiling, bopping her head, how's that feel, Mom?
Feels good knowing that she can enjoy herself in spite of everything that she has to deal with.
This is what bravery looks like.
Tell me a couple things you love about your sister.
She's brave, kind.
And loves to give kisses, too.
Why did you want to give her a kiss?
Because I love her.
Right now, there's no cure for Casey's type of brain cancer, which is why Dr. Brian Rood at the Brain Tumor Institute at Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C., is working overtime to change that.
It's a tragedy that we can't do more quickly.
A tragedy because after 30 years of research, only one new drug has been approved by the FDA to specifically treat pediatric patients with brain cancer.
We can't arrive at these discoveries and these new therapies for someone like Casey on the timescale that she requires them. And every time you meet a child with a diagnosis that you know is going to be very, very difficult to successfully treat, you can almost project forward in time and know how this is going to play out. But that also provides the impetus, the motivation to work harder, to work faster, to work longer, to try and change that for somebody.
Change he made for Nicole Giroux after he and other researchers were able to save her daughter, Lila. Lila's fight with cancer, inspiring her mom to create the Lila Bean Foundation, raising funds for research Dr. Rood so desperately needs.
I wish that my motivation, and I'm sure Dr. Rood's motivation, didn't have to be losing children and watching families suffer so gravely. But you take the suffering and you do something with it. And I think that's a big part of our jobs, is to turn all the sadness and devastation into something that's going to change the future.
A future Joe and Alyssa will have to face without their Casey. But her spirit, always reminding them her hardest days will hold a lot of hope for others.
Why is it important to you not to tell her that this is terminal?
I've been telling myself that if she does ask, that we're ready to have the conversation. When she relapsed in 2022 and the realization came over me that I was likely to outlive her, it really finally brought death and mortality into my own perspective. It's something we're thinking about constantly, and I hope we're ready for it.
I think knowing what's going to happen actually makes it easier to live every day with joy, because you're just trying to get through treatment. Treatment is awful, it's horrible, and you're just trying to get through it so that you can get to that light at the end of the tunnel. We don't have a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, the end of the tunnel for us is darkness.
Yay!
Yay! And so we have to make these days as best as they can. We have to make as many memories as we can, because this is our only chance.
Practically perfect in every way.
Good job.
Trying to find joy in whatever time they have. Our thanks to Kira for that. Again, the Lila Bean Foundation helps fund research for children with brain cancer at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. Still ahead, the Trump administration is attempting to cut funding to NPR and PBS. How NPR responded today. A Hawaiian girl plus a dog-like alien equals a box office bonanza, the record that Lilo and Stitch broke this past weekend. Welcome back, everyone. Memorial Day weekend is traditionally when Hollywood starts rolling out some of its biggest features. If this past weekend was any indication, people are still happy to shell out a little more to experience a film on the silver screen. This holiday's eye-popping box office figures, that's tonight's By the Numbers. Disney's Lilo and Stitch was not just the top movie this weekend, but it was the biggest Memorial Day opening ever, grossing a whopping $183 million domestically over the four-day holiday weekend. Disney, of course, is the parent company of ABC. That made Lilo and Stitch the second most successful four-day holiday release ever. Disney's Black Panther keeps the #1 spot. It grossed $242 million over President's Day weekend in 2018. But Lilo and Stitch wasn't the only box office success this weekend. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning took in a healthy $77 million domestically. The two movies are a reminder of Hollywood's reach far beyond America's borders. Internationally, Lilo and Stitch took in $158 million, almost matching its domestic take. The Final Reckoning took in $127 million internationally. You'd think with those kinds of figures, a big profit would be guaranteed. Not necessarily so. The Final Reckoning cost an estimated $400 million to make before marketing, according to The Hollywood Reporter. That makes it one of the most expensive films ever made. According to data research from the people at The Numbers, the average movie ticket now costs $11.31. But controlling for inflation, that price has barely budged for the past 25 years. Coming up, the AI company that admits its model is capable of blackmailing you. How a test of the system revealed the algorithm's disturbing feature. What's old is new again. The first new episodes in more than a decade of the animated TV series Phineas and Ferb are set to drop on the Disney Channel and Disney Plus. Actress Ashley Tisdale is here to discuss how her role has evolved. NPR fires back at the Trump administration's attempts to cut their federal funding. A fiery boat explosion caught on camera in Florida, and the next generation of Harry Potter stars have been cast. These stories and more in tonight's rundown.
Two people were killed and at least 9 others injured in a Memorial Day mass shooting in Philadelphia. Police said multiple rounds of gunfire were fired late Monday night in Fairmount Park. An adult man and woman were killed, and 3 teenagers between the ages of 15 and 17 were among those injured. No one has been arrested, and no weapons have been recovered. NPR has filed a lawsuit against President Trump over his attempts to cut federal funding for the broadcaster. Trump issued an executive order earlier this month directing the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to end funding for an NPR and PBS, claiming their news coverage was biased. The NPR lawsuit, which includes 3 local stations, claims the order is, quote, textbook retaliation and viewpoint-based discrimination in violation of the First Amendment. A 13-year-old boy has died after falling from a Memorial Day parade float in Ohio. Officials in Greene, Ohio said Matthew Schultz was riding in the parade on a trailer being pulled by a pickup truck when he fell off the front of the trailer and was run over. The Summit County Sheriff's Office said the incident was under investigation, calling it a tragic accident. 11 passengers, including 2 children, were injured when a boat exploded in Fort Lauderdale. The Coast Guard said the explosion happened Monday near the New River Triangle. A Fort Lauderdale fire rescue spokesperson told ABC News the boat was anchored at a sandbar in the Intracoastal Waterway and exploded when the driver turned the engine back on to head to shore. AI company Anthropic said its new model tried to blackmail an employee during testing. The company said in a safety report that the Claude Opus 4 model was asked to act as an assistant for a fictional company and was given emails implying it would soon be replaced, and the engineer working on the replacement was having an extramarital affair. The company found the model often tried to blackmail the engineer by threatening to reveal the affair if it was replaced. Anthropic said the model generally prefers to advocate for its self-preservation via, quote, ethical means, but was capable of taking, quote, extreme actions in certain situations. The new Harry Potter TV series has casted its Harry, Ron, and Hermione. HBO announced that Dominic McLaughlin will star as the titular Harry, Arabella Stanton will star as Hermione Granger, and Alastair Stout will portray Ron Weasley. The series is described as a faithful adaptation of the Harry Potter books and will reportedly begin production this summer.
It's one of Disney's most iconic and beloved shows, and after more than a decade off the air, Phineas and Ferb is back. The animated show has racked up more than 650 million hours streamed just on Disney Plus globally and has recently landed in the top 10 most watched animated kids series across all streaming platforms, according to Nielsen. Now the mischievous stepbrothers are back with more adventures spanning another 104 days of summer as their older sister Candace is once again on a mission to bust her brothers. Let's take a look.
Phineas and Ferb, I am busting your biscuits. Buckle up, dude. It's about to get real.
I follow the rules, obeying all of the signs. I'm not incurring any traffic fines. I'm only passing on a dotted white line. I'm not distracted by the traffic noise.
Ashley Tisdale joins us now in the studio, returning to her role as Candace, the queen of Tattletales. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you.
So it's been 10 years since you last voiced Candace. What was your response when you officially heard the show is coming back?
Yeah, well, it was 10 years since we actually finished the show, but we have done movies in between. So I did Candace Against the Universe. But it's still so exciting. When I heard the show was coming back, I was like, this is a dream job. You know, I've been doing it for almost 18, 20 years now. So it's so much fun.
And when you think about doing a character for nearly 2 decades, I imagine there's an attachment to Candace.
Definitely. I mean, I think Candace is one of those characters that, you know, she is crazy about busting her brothers. So I get to just kind of have fun, and she's really a limitless character. I get to be creative, and you know, Dan and Swampy just like, you know, do amazing with the show. So I love playing her.
And this time you're back as a mom, and I imagine that might give you a little more sympathy toward her. As you said, she's always trying to like kind of beat down and keep her brothers in check. Does it change at all for you now having a child of your own?
I don't know. I mean, that hasn't changed much. I think it was just the physicality changed, obviously. Like I was pregnant with my second while recording the series. So that was a first for me. I was like, wow, this is so weird being pregnant and doing this voice.
Now, since the show's peak in 2007, Disney says that 12.6 billion hours have been watched. Wow. When you first started doing this, did you ever think it would become this kind of cultural phenomenon?
No, I get asked that a lot, but it's like, it's so hard when you're in it. It's so hard to know, like, you know, obviously you have people come up to you and say like they love your work in the show, and I've had a lot of people that I've looked up to say that, and but I don't, when you're in something like this, it's hard to kind of see and know when that obviously happened. I mean, TikTok for sure, I felt like every single time I'd open the app, it was like a trending sound of Phineas and Ferb. And it was like either my character or the squirrels in the pants. And I was like, dang, like, you know, and Jimmy Fallon's doing it. And I was like, this is wild. Like, so I then started to be like, okay, I think people know what Phineas and Ferb is. And have you noticed that really, I guess with the advent of streaming, a whole new generation is now familiar with Phineas and Ferb? I know. It's pretty amazing to be a part of multiple shows, I think, that keep catching a new audience is pretty awesome. And many people also know you from High School Musical, and it seems like your daughter has taken a liking to it. Yes. I think we found a clip, if we can take a look at that. The newest fan.
And the star shows so I'm in the middle.
Oh, okay.
The star goes in the middle.
Of course, you play Sharpay Evans on that show. What's it like having your daughter embrace one of your former roles?
It is, it's hilarious. You know, I never ever thought, you know, I would obviously like just see my 4-year-old singing my music. But it's really cute, and she's obsessed with it right now. Oh, very cute. Thank you, Ashley, so much for coming on the show. The brand new season of Phineas and Ferb returns to Disney Channel on June 5th and the following day on Disney+. Of course, Disney is the parent company of ABC. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.